Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that might just shift your spirit today. There's a reason why some women don't break. They've been through the fire, they've seen betrayal, heartbreak, disrespect, yet they walk like nothing touched them. Not because they're cold, not because they're numb, but because they are protected. There's a force covering her, guiding her and clearing her path, even when she can't see it. And once you understand these signs, you'll realize why she keeps rising, why no weapon formed against her ever truly hits. So if you're that woman, or you're trying to become her, don't skip this, because every second of this message is a mirror, a reflection of the warrior you're becoming. To the world, it might look like she's isolated, like she's missing out. They might wonder how a woman like her can move through life without constantly needing someone by her side. No entourage, no crowd, no loud announcements, just her, walking with grace in silence with purpose. But what they don't see is that she's not really alone. She's not empty. She's not waiting on validation. She's not looking for attention. She's walking with something deeper, something most people can't understand because they're too busy chasing noise. She's been through too much to depend on temporary people. She's had people walk in and out of her life like it was a revolving door. She's been betrayed by those she trusted, abandoned in moments where she needed someone the most, and yet she never let that break her. It didn't turn her bitter, it turned her wise. It taught her that some people are only in your life to teach you how to walk alone. And once you master that walk, you realize you were never really alone. You were being protected, separated, preserved. When a woman learns how to walk alone, it means she's learned how to hear her own voice again. Not the voices of manipulation, not the voices of guilt, shame, or fear, her own voice. The one that whispers truth even when the world tries to silence her. The one that tells her when to leave a room, when to cut ties, when to trust, and when to fall back. That voice isn't loud, it's sacred, and it only speaks when there's peace in the silence. That's why she walks alone, to hear it clearly. She knows that not every presence is a blessing, not every crowd is safe, not every friend is genuine. She's learned how to discern energy, how to feel what doesn't belong around her, how to spot danger that wears a smile. And once you've walked with the wrong people long enough, being alone feels like a breath of fresh air. It's not loneliness, it's liberation. It's the kind of freedom that makes you love your own company, and that's what makes her untouchable. Evil people don't just show up with red flags, they blend in, they charm, they pretend. And the ones who are always surrounded, always distracted, always needing someone, they miss those signs. But not her. Because she's walked alone, she's learned how to detect the fake without needing a warning. She's seen enough to know when someone's intentions are off. Her spirit speaks louder than their words, and her stillness keeps her sharp. People often ask, how is she okay by herself? What they don't realize is that being alone taught her the difference between being needed and being used. It taught her how to stop pouring into empty cups. It taught her that love isn't about begging someone to stay. It's about respecting yourself enough to let them go. She no longer fears walking away. She embraces it because she knows that peace costs too much to be around the wrong energy. What protects her isn't physical, it's spiritual. It's the unseen hand that keeps her from falling into traps. The inner voice that tells her when to say no, even when everything around her says yes. That covering keeps her away from places where harm could have happened. That protection might not be flashy, no sirens, no headlines, but it shows up in moments no one else sees. The text she never responded to, the person she didn't meet up with, the opportunity she passed up that later turned out to be chaos in disguise. That's not coincidence. That's divine protection. And that protection moves stronger when she walks in solitude. Because when you walk with too many people, their noise drowns out your direction. Their opinions blur your vision. But when you walk alone, you start seeing with clarity, you start hearing with wisdom, you start making moves not based on pressure, but on power. And that power, it's what evil can't touch. Some people will misunderstand her. They'll say she's distant, they'll say she's cold, but they don't understand that her silence isn't a wall, it's a sanctuary. It's where she rebuilds. It's where she hears truth. It's where she recharges her soul. And most importantly, it's where she becomes unshakable. Because she's not walking aimlessly. She's not wandering. She's not lost. She's being guided. Every step is intentional. Every path she takes has purpose. And every time she walks alone, it's a reminder not just to her, but to every evil force out there that she's not vulnerable. She's not easy to fool. She's protected. And protection doesn't always show up in shields and swords. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like solitude. And sometimes it looks like a woman who walks alone, yet carries the strength of 1,000 behind her. So the next time you see her walking quietly, confidently, with her head held high and no one beside her, don't feel sorry. Don't assume she's lonely. Understand this. She's on sacred ground. She's in alignment. She's in a season where protection looks like separation, and she's never been more powerful. She doesn't need an explanation. She doesn't wait for proof. She doesn't require someone to betray her to know their heart was never right. Her spirit speaks before their actions do. The moment someone steps into her space, she feels it. A shift in energy, a subtle discomfort, an invisible alert that goes off within her. It's not fear, it's not paranoia, it's discernment. It's not guessing, she knows. She walks into a room and doesn't just see with her eyes, she sees with her soul. While others get caught up in charm and sweet words and polished appearances, she sees straight through it. She's not fooled by masks, not impressed by fake light, because she's walked with darkness before. She's danced with pain, looked deception in the face, and survived the sting of betrayal. And once you've been through that kind of fire, your spirit doesn't just heal, it evolves. It becomes sensitive, sharp, quiet, but deeply aware. She can sense intentions. She hears the words, yes, but she pays closer attention to the tone, the timing, the energy behind them. That strange feeling you get when someone's smiling but your heart feels off? She doesn't ignore that. She listens. That's how she stays protected. Not by reacting, not by accusing, but by recognizing. She doesn't need confrontation to confirm what she already knows. Her spirit confirms it for her. There are moments she won't even be able to explain. Moments where someone new enters her life and everything about them looks perfect. On paper, they check every box. But something inside her whispers, this ain't right. And she listens. She walks away. No drama, no closure, just distance. Because she knows not everything that glitters is gold. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every person who shows interest has good intentions. And that's what keeps her safe. She doesn't silence that voice. She trusts it more than anything because that voice has never lied to her. That voice is why she didn't fall into another toxic cycle. That voice is why she dodged situations that were designed to harm her. That voice has been her shield when words failed her and people disappointed her. She's not loud about it. She doesn't announce her intuition. She just moves differently. If something feels off, she won't force it. If someone's energy changes, she won't chase them for an explanation. She's mastered the art of stepping back without guilt, of protecting her peace before it's threatened. She's not interested in proving anything. She's interested in protecting what took her years to build. Her sanity, her clarity, her growth. Darkness isn't always obvious. It doesn't always show up screaming. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shows up with flowers and a fake smile. Sometimes it disguises itself as help, as love, as friendship. And that's why her discernment is her greatest weapon. She's seen people wear the costume of kindness while carrying the heart of manipulation. She's had conversations that looked fine on the outside but left her spirit drained and confused. That's how she learned to stop judging situations by surface. She learned to feel instead of just see. And the more she trusted that feeling, the more aligned she became. Things that used to confuse her no longer do. People who once had access to her now can't even reach her energy because she knows what it costs to ignore her spirit. She's done it before. Trusted people she should have walked away from, gave chances to those who showed her who they were. She learned the hard way, but she learned, and now she no longer gives evil the benefit of the doubt. Her protection lies in that quiet awareness, in that ability to observe without reacting, to sense without speaking. She doesn't always need to expose darkness. Sometimes she just needs to step around it. Sometimes the best defense is not to fight, but to move in silence, guided by instinct. She doesn't argue with what doesn't feel right. She doesn't wait around to be convinced. If her spirit says no, she listens, and that keeps her 100 steps ahead. Some people call her guarded. Others say she's too sensitive. But what they don't understand is that sensitivity is a gift. One sharpened by pain and polished by wisdom. It's not weakness. It's protection. She doesn't ignore the vibe. She reads it. She respects it. Because it has never failed her. That's why evil can't touch her easily. That's why manipulators get uncomfortable around her, because they can't hide behind fake energy. She sees it all without needing evidence, without needing to explain. Her knowing is quiet but powerful. And that knowing, that's what keeps her from walking into traps, from falling for words, from entertaining anything that doesn't align with her soul. She can feel darkness before it arrives. And because of that, she walks in light. Not just the kind the world sees, but the kind that sees the world for what it truly is. And that is a protection no evil can ever break. There is a certain kind of power in restraint, a quiet, commanding strength that doesn't need to clap back, prove a point, or win every argument. She knows who she is, and because of that, she doesn't waste her energy on foolishness. She understands something most people never learn. Not every offense needs a response. Not every enemy is worth your attention, and not every enemy is worth your time. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. She's been through too much to let petty people drag her into chaos. She's seen how the enemy works, not always by attacking directly, but by trying to pull her into distractions that rob her of her focus, her peace, her purpose. And once you realize that some people are sent to provoke you not because they're strong, but because they're threatened by your calm, you stop giving them the satisfaction of your reaction. She knows how to walk away, not because she can't fight, but because she chooses not to waste her fire on battles that lead nowhere. She understands that some people only come around to stir confusion, to test her patience, to tempt her into stepping out of character. But she's too seasoned for that now, too aligned, too focused. When you're growing, you realize that silence can be a weapon. Distance can be your defense. And peace? Peace becomes your victory. She's learned that protection doesn't always look like being shielded from trouble. Sometimes it looks like having the strength to ignore it, to not respond to the message, to not show up to the argument, to not engage with the drama. That's real maturity, when you're no longer moved by every push or provocation. When you can see the trap and choose to walk around it, not through it. There are people who will try to poke at her peace, try to provoke her through lies, through manipulation, through guilt. They'll push buttons just to see if they still work. But she's upgraded, she's evolved. She's no longer controlled by emotion. She doesn't move based on impulse. She moves based on purpose. She knows that her attention is valuable, and she refuses to spend it on people who don't deserve her presence. That's the difference between the woman who's protected and the one who's reactive. The protected woman has learned how to pause before she speaks, how to breathe before she responds, how to assess before she acts. She knows that some people just want to drain her. Some people want to distract her from her calling. Some people want to break her focus because they can't stand how centered she is. And when you carry light, darkness will always try to pull you in, but it only works if you step into the shadows. So she stays planted. She keeps her peace guarded. She lets people assume what they want, say what they will, think what they please, because at the end of the day, her purpose is louder than their opinions. She's not in the business of proving her worth. She's in the business of preserving her energy. And that's what evil people can't stand: a woman who doesn't flinch, a woman who doesn't react, a woman who lets her silence speak louder than their noise. Because when you don't react, you take their power away. When you don't respond, you leave them talking to themselves. And when you don't fight battles that aren't yours, you walk away with your peace intact. Her protection lies in that stillness, in that wisdom that tells her, you don't need to fight everything. You don't need to win every debate. You don't need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. She knows who sent her. She knows what's inside of her, and because of that, she doesn't need to prove it to anyone. Some will call her cold. Some will say she's too distant, that she should have said something, that she should have reacted, but she knows the cost of stepping into chaos. She knows how easy it is to lose your balance when you fight in places that were never meant for you. So she doesn't argue, she doesn't defend, she simply rises above the drama, above the lies, above the noise, because she knows elevation requires separation. Every time she walks away from something meant to destroy her peace, she's protected. Every time she chooses silence over retaliation, she's strengthened. And every time she resists the temptation to prove herself to people beneath her purpose, she grows. She doesn't fight every battle, because some battles are just noise, some battles are bait, and some battles are beneath the woman she's become. Her protection is her discipline, her shield is her silence, and her victory, that's in the fact that she's still standing, still calm, still focused, still powerful, while the world around her tries to pull her down. She doesn't fall for it, she doesn't flinch, she doesn't fight, because she already knows she's won. Not everyone deserves a seat at her table, and she knows it. She's not interested in popularity. She's not trying to impress a crowd. Her loyalty isn't for sale, and her energy isn't up for grabs. She values peace too much to let just anybody close. See, once you've experienced betrayal, once you've been stabbed by people you loved, once you've been surrounded by fake smiles that hit real intentions, you learn that access to you is a privilege, not a right. She doesn't keep people around just to feel less alone. She doesn't entertain surface-level friendships that drain her spirit. If it's not real, if it's not rooted in love, truth, and trust, she cuts it off. She's not afraid of solitude. In fact, she thrives in it, because in her silence, she finds clarity. In her stillness, she hears the whispers of wisdom that crowds drown out. That's why she keeps her circle small. Not because she's antisocial, but because she's intentional. She understands the power of energy. She knows that who you let near you can either build you up or break you down. That's why she guards her space like a sacred ground. She's seen how evil doesn't always come in the form of loud enemies. Sometimes it comes dressed as a quiet friend. Sometimes the ones who cheer the loudest in public are the same ones who secretly hope you fail in private. She's felt that sting, and now she listens closer, she observes deeper. She no longer lets titles like friend, family, or love blind her to behavior. She doesn't need 10 people around her, she only needs a few. A loyal few, People who don't compete with her but celebrate her. People who don't gossip about others because they have integrity. People who don't smile in her face and scheme behind her back. And if she doesn't find those people, she's okay walking alone, because peace with yourself is better than chaos with a crowd. And she would rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by company built on lies. Her spirit stays clean because she does the inner work. She doesn't just protect herself from others. She checks herself too. She confronts her own flaws. She holds herself accountable. She forgives, not because people deserve it, but because she refuses to carry the weight of bitterness. That's part of her protection, not allowing darkness to live inside her. She knows that what you carry becomes what you attract. So she releases hate. She releases envy. She releases revenge, not because she's weak, but because she's wise, and because she knows a clean heart can hear clearly. She knows that blessings flow better when there's no blockage in your soul, and evil thrives where bitterness grows. That's why she doesn't hold on to what hurt her. She lets it go. She heals, and in doing so, she becomes untouchable. Evil people can't manipulate her with guilt. They can't play with her emotions. They can't drag her into their toxic games, because she's not carrying the same baggage anymore. She's not operating from old pain. She's moving in alignment now. Her small circle is her shield. It's not about numbers, it's about energy. Real recognizes real. Loyalty recognizes loyalty. And she's built her life around truth, not attention. That's why evil can't get close to her, because it can't survive in an atmosphere that pure. Because when your spirit is clean, it exposes the dirt in others. It makes manipulators uncomfortable. It makes liars nervous. It makes users walk away because they realize they can't feed off you anymore. She doesn't chase people. She doesn't beg for love. She doesn't force connections. If it's not mutual, if it's not real, she lets it go. She understands that anything forced isn't meant, and anything meant for her won't require her to sacrifice her peace. That's why she sleeps well at night, not because life is perfect, but because her circle is solid and her spirit is at ease. And no matter how much she loves someone, if they disturb that peace, she'll choose herself. Every time. Because she's not afraid of being alone. She's afraid of losing herself in fake relationships. She's afraid of pouring into people who only take. She's afraid of repeating cycles she fought so hard to break. So she stays guarded. Not closed, just wise. And when something feels off, she trusts it. Because history taught her that peace is a compass and chaos is a warning. Her small circle is filled with people who don't need to be watched because their loyalty has been proven. Her spirit is clean because she's done the work to release the mess. And her life is protected not because she fights off evil, but because she refuses to let it in. That's why she stands tall. That's why she walks confidently. Because she's not carrying dead weight. She's not dragging old pain. She's not entertaining snakes with soft voices. She's built a life around truth. And that life cannot be shaken. Not by lies, not by betrayal, not by evil in disguise. Her circle is small, her spirit is clean, and that is her armor. There's something different about a woman who doesn't panic when the storm hits. While everyone else is losing their grip, scrambling for control, she stands still, calm, steady, rooted. She doesn't let the chaos outside create confusion inside. Her peace is not based on her circumstances. It's something deeper, something built, something earned through pain, loss, and struggle. She didn't get this peace because her life has been easy. No, she got it because her life has tested her, broken her, stretched her, and still she's standing. This kind of peace can't be faked. You can't pretend your way into it. You can't borrow it from someone else. You have to earn it. You have to walk through fire and refuse to let the flames define you. You have to watch everything fall apart and choose not to fall with it. You have to lose things you thought you needed, say goodbye to people you thought were forever, and still have the strength to wake up with purpose. That's where real peace is born, not in comfort, but in the chaos you learn to conquer. She doesn't lose sleep over things she can't control. She knows life won't always make sense. People will disappoint you. Plans will change. Pain will come. But she's not shaken by it because she's anchored to something greater than her emotions. She doesn't chase closure. She doesn't demand answers. She's learned that sometimes peace comes when you stop trying to understand everything and start trusting the process. She doesn't need all the pieces to be okay. She just needs her mindset to be steady. That's why when trouble shows up, she doesn't flinch. She's been here before. She's faced darkness and didn't let it consume her. She's felt fear and still walked forward. She's cried herself to sleep and still got up in the morning with fight in her soul. She knows how to breathe in the middle of a storm because her peace is not based on the absence of struggle. It's based on the presence of power within. People often mistake her stillness for weakness, but they have no idea what it took to get that stillness. It takes strength to be calm when everything's loud. It takes power to be gentle in a world that pushes you to rage. She doesn't argue with people just to prove a point. She doesn't panic just because the plan didn't work out. She's learned how to ride the wave without drowning in it. That's protection. That's growth. That's real spiritual armor. She doesn't need the storm to stop to feel okay. She creates peace within herself. She protects it, maintains it, guards it like a sacred fire. Because she knows people will try to shake her, life will try to break her. But as long as her inner world stays in order, the outer chaos can't reach her. That's why you can see her walking through hell and still smiling like she's in heaven. Because peace isn't about what's happening to you, it's about what's happening in you. And evil people, they hate that. They hate that they can't break her, that their drama doesn't disturb her, that their silence doesn't confuse her, that their games don't control her. They'll try to throw shade, but she doesn't flinch. They'll try to stir confusion, but she keeps her clarity because she understands if they can't take your peace, they can't take your power. So she holds on to it like her life depends, because in many ways it does. She's not naive. She knows storms are coming. Life has taught her that peace doesn't mean problems disappear. It just means they don't control you anymore. That's why she doesn't speak fear. She doesn't expect failure. She prepares her mind, she strengthens her spirit, and she walks with quiet confidence through every valley because she knows valleys don't last forever, but character built in the valley will carry you to the mountaintop. She doesn't need everyone to understand her path. She doesn't explain herself to people who only want to judge. Her peace protects her from that. It gives her the freedom to move in silence, to choose her battles, to walk away without explaining, to focus on what matters, to breathe deep when everything feels tight. That's real protection, not from pain, but from reacting in ways that give pain power. So while others rush and panic and spiral, she moves slow. She moves with intention. Because when your peace is intact, your vision is clear. You don't chase. You don't fear. You don't fold. You flow. You trust. You rise. And even if the world around her is falling apart, she won't. Because she's not built on circumstance. She's built on resilience. She's built on wisdom. She's built on an inner foundation that no storm can shake. That's how you know she's protected, not because trouble doesn't come her way, but because when it does, she stands, unbothered, unshaken, unmoved. She doesn't let the noise on the outside disturb the peace on the inside, and that is the sign of a woman who's been through the fire and came out refined, a woman who knows who she is, a woman who doesn't need the world to be calm because she already carries calm within her. There's something powerful about a woman who doesn't beg for closure, doesn't chase explanations, and doesn't cling to people who show her they're not meant to stay. when her spirit senses that something is off, when the energy shifts, when the vibe goes dark, when the peace starts to leave, she listens. She doesn't wait for proof. She doesn't need a big blow up to confirm what her soul already knows. She just walks, and she does it with her head high, with grace, and most importantly, without looking back. She understands something most people miss. Peace is expensive, and anything that costs her that peace, that stillness, that clarity, it's too expensive to keep. She's not afraid to let go, not afraid to lose people, not afraid to disappoint those who expect her to tolerate what no longer feels right, because she knows the price of holding on to something that's out of alignment is far greater than the pain of walking away. And while others may view her silence as cold, she knows it's just clarity, it's strength, it's protection. She doesn't entertain confusion. She doesn't dance with drama. She doesn't argue to be heard by people who are committed to misunderstanding her. When something disrupts her spirit, she doesn't ignore it. She respects her intuition. She honors it like it's a sacred compass. Because she's learned sometimes your soul knows what your mind hasn't figured out yet. And if you stay where your spirit feels drained, you'll start to shrink just to survive. That's not living. That's slow death. And she's done living like that. She walks, not because she's heartless, but because she's healed enough to choose herself. She walks because she knows you can love someone deeply and still let them go. You can forgive someone completely and still choose not to give them access to your peace again. She's not bitter, she's just no longer willing to bleed for people who wouldn't even notice she was cut. That's not pride, it's self-respect. That's not ego, it's growth. When she walks away, she doesn't slam the door. She doesn't make a scene. She doesn't try to get the last word. That's not her style. Her silence speaks volumes. Her absence says what her words never could. And those who truly paid attention know when she leaves, something sacred goes with her. Because her presence is not ordinary. It carries peace. It carries healing. It carries light. And when she's no longer around, the room feels different. The energy shifts because what she brought to the space can't be faked. It can't be replaced. Evil people hate this. They hate that she won't play the game, that she won't stay in a place just to keep appearances, that she won't lower her standards just to feel accepted. They hate that they can't manipulate her with